Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is someone who there's been a lot of talk about him throughout the entire season because, yes, he's shattering these records, but the question is, how good is he really? Where does he really rank amongst the top wide receivers? This year, 138 receptions, 1,829 yards, 15 touchdowns. He's in company with Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and Marvin Harrison. Those are the only three to have those numbers or anything similar to that. But before this season, he wasn't this productive, and that's led people to criticize his spectacular season more than we have done with other receivers in the past. Do you think Cooper Kupp is getting too much disrespect? How do you feel about him? Where does he rank amongst current wide receivers? And also answer, if you're starting a team, is he one of the first 5 wide receivers you're taking?
This is rich coming from y'all, because you guys were the ones who were disrespecting him earlier in the season. I had him the number 1 receiver this year. Y'all had him like 2 and 3.
I had him 2 to Devontae Adams. Put me in jail.
Okay. Whatever. Devontae Adams, sure.
Thank you.
Cooper Kupp's been amazing this year. He's been phenomenal. I had him ranked number 1. Devontae Adams, obviously pure talent-wise, sure, I'll take Tay over Cooper Kupp. And a lot of this gets taken out of context because he does all of his damage in the slot. Do you want to know who leads the league in targets in the slot? Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Jettis, Deontay, Tyreek, DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Hollywood, Waddle, Brandon Cooks, Godwin, Terry, Jamar Chase. Top 10. These are like 7 of the top 10 receivers in the league.
Best of the best.
All get the most targets in the slot. So I don't really care that he's getting all of this work in the slot because Sean McVay told him to do a job, and he's doing his job better than anyone else in the NFL. Should we take anything away from Debo? Because Shanahan has run plays designed for him and all these special screens and plays designed specifically for Debo that damn near no other receiver in the league gets? Or should we take anything away from Micah Parsons, who Dan Quinn specifically puts up special blitzes for him so he could be put one-on-one with the running backs so he's able to get after the quarterback? If we're not taking anything away from them, why should we take away anything from Cooper Kupp? He's having a historic season. Am I taking him top 5? I have to think about that. I'll let Drew go or Joel, whoever wants to go next, and I'll get back to you. He's definitely top 10, but I need a second if I want to take him top 5.
All right, so in terms of the disrespect that he's been getting, yes. And I don't – maybe this is a little bit strong, and I think that it is due to the fact that we're not seeing Cooper Kupp be like every other route runner where he is the fastest, or maybe he's not the cleanest, or you, in terms of catching the football, getting open, Cooper Kupp is one of the best in the league. And because he's not the strongest, he's not the most athletic, just view wise, people look at him and they don't see it immediately. How I spoke about a little bit with Mac Jones, it's similar to Cooper Kupp. He doesn't pass the eye test for normal people. Cooper Kupp is still one of the best players in the NFL. And that's something that you can't argue, especially with the numbers that he's been putting up. Number 1 in yards, number 1 in touchdowns. What more do you want? Number 1 in receptions, excuse me. What more can you ask of a player from what Cooper Kupp has given this team? Go look at the game log for Cooper Kupp. You want to talk about insanity? Go look at Cooper Kupp's game log, where almost every single game he has is double-digit receptions and triple-digit receiving yards. It's crazy. What he has done is nothing short of miraculous. Now, in terms of top 5 players and starting a franchise, that is extremely difficult. I'm going to take Devontae Adams. I'm probably taking Tyreek Hill. I'm definitely taking Jettis. I will probably take
Jamar Chase.
Yeah, if we're doing starting a franchise, the question changes. If we're doing starting a franchise, the question's different.
I would probably take Deebo Samuel too. The only reason why I have a little bit of fear with Deebo Samuel is the fact that he's injury prone. That's the only thing really holding me back from firmly saying Deebo Samuel, but Deebo Samuel can do everything for me. You want to talk about a gadget guy? Sure, Cooper Kupp has those abilities, but Deebo Samuel is so freakishly athletic. His ability to make a player miss, his ability to break tackles is some of the best that I've seen in this league by far. And another name that this might be surprising, and it's unfortunate that he did tear his ACL and he's out for the season. Chris Godwin is one of the most underrated wide receivers in this league when it comes to talking about the top 5 players in the league. Chris Godwin this season, 98 receptions, 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns, and the touchdowns aren't more because he plays with one of the best end zone threats in Mike Evans. And also, surprisingly, Rob Gronkowski, who's one of the league leaders in touchdowns at the tight end position. Chris Godwin, in my opinion, needs to be spoken about in this conversation a little bit more for what he has done, his abilities on the field, his route running abilities, his ability to get open. His over-the-top game is just as good, if not as good, as Mike Evans, who obviously is known for his over-the-top abilities, but Godwin has that physical capability to do so. It's just they need him to run this specific scheme, and he can be successful in any type of scheme you draw up for him. So in terms of the top 5, it's really difficult.
What about A.J. Brown?
That is also very difficult for me because going into the year, I've said it a few times, you could convince me that A.J. Brown was the most talented receiver in the NFL going into this year in terms of breaking a tackle, in terms of physicality, in terms of hands, in terms of big playability. There is no one that I really was looking at that had all of these things that I wanted outside of A.J. Brown going into the season. I don't know if I would lean him right now, given the fact that Kupp has these numbers and they're just something that you just can't overlook. So, but you can overlook it when it comes to guys like Devontae Adams, when it comes to Jettas, when it comes to Tyreek Hill, when it comes to Jamar Chase, who Jamar Chase is in his rookie year putting up 1,413 touchdowns, and that is going to be basically the story of his entire career. He's going to be an all-timer. I genuinely do believe that with Jamar Chase. So it's tough to say top 5, definitely top 8, but there are some great names at the wide receiver position.
You guys know how I feel about Cooper Kupp. I think if I'm starting a franchise, I'm probably taking 8 to 10 receivers over Cooper Kupp. But I'm not taking away anything from what he's doing this year. Cooper Kupp is the Triple Crown king this year. Receptions, yards, and touchdown leader. He has 15 games of 90-plus reception yards, and he has 15 games of 90-plus reception yards, which is a single-season record. He's in company with names like Jerry Rice, Marvin Harrison, and Randy Moss. What he's doing, we might never see again. It's just as simple as that. But it's hard for me to take him over certain players because I think age is a big factor. But also, I think what's holding back a lot of people from elevating Cooper Kupp higher in the top wide receivers list is that this is his first real elite season. He's had great seasons in the past, but he hasn't had an elite one. Before this season, he only had 100 receptions in a season once. He only had 1,000 yards once. And 3 of his 5 seasons, he's had 6 touchdowns or less. This year, he has 15 touchdowns. It's not that we're disrespecting Cooper Kupp. It's just that this year feels like an outlier year. It doesn't feel like he can do this year in and year out. When talking about Devontae Adams, we know he can do this year in and year out. We're talking about Jamar Chase. As a rookie, 1,400 yards. He's going to be doing this for the rest of his career. He's going to be doing this for 5 years minimum. When talking about Tyreek Hill, he's done it year in and year out. When talking about Justin Jefferson, he's done it for the past 2 seasons. He has the most receiving yards for a player in his first 2 seasons in NFL history. So they've done it. This is the first time Cooper Kupp has put up elite level production, which is why it's hard for a lot of us to elevate him higher in the conversation. If I'm starting a team today, Cooper Kupp is not in my top 5 of receivers I'm taking. I'm taking Adams. I'm taking Jefferson. I'm taking Hill. I'm taking Jamar Chase. I'm taking A.J. Brown. I'm probably taking Debo. Cooper Kupp is like in that 7th to 10th range. And that's where I think he is. But this year, yes, he's having the best wide receiver season. But I think it's warranted for the reasons people have for not elevating him is warranted because this is his first elite season. And he's been injured in the past, but even when he's been injured in the past, like Kupp has been fairly healthy. The only time he's been injured was in 2018. He only played 8 games. He had 566 yards that year. I mean, that's on pace for
6 touchdowns.
You're right.
And 6 touchdowns. Yeah.
That's on pace for 1,000, but is it on pace for 1,400, 1,500? Like, we know 1,000 yards is the gold standard, but that's a great receiving season. What's elite? Elite is like 1,300 or 1,500. That's elite level season. This is the first time we've seen Cooper Kupp do that, which is why I think people aren't elevating him. And he's also not a traditional X. But let me ask you guys this question. I think our podcast thrives on asking the tough questions. Because this podcast asks tough questions, I'm going to put you guys in an uncomfortable predicament, but give me your honest answer. Are people not elevating Cooper Kupp higher in the top wide receivers conversation because he is a white receiver?
This, and Joel, if you want to give your thoughts, you're more than welcome to. I didn't want to allude to that in my original statement just because I'm not trying to make anything racially motivated. That's not the intention. No way. But to a degree, I feel as if there is a little bit of scrutiny to his game because of that. And that's what I was kind of alluding to in the terms of the eye test. People just don't see a guy like, well, you look at Wes Welker, and Wes Welker, for what the production that he gave, he was never given that elite status, even though he has the numbers to say he was elite in the time that he was playing, but never really was given that nod of being a top 5 guy. It's a very tough question to ask. You're 100% right. And just talking about it, you don't want to make the game racially motivated. And that's why I try not to view Cooper Kupp in that manner. But I feel like in the grand scheme of things, there are some people that definitely do look at Cooper Kupp and hold him back to a degree based on the fact that he is a white receiver.
I think it does hold him back. I think because he's white, he's not getting the recognition that other receivers would typically get for having this great of a season. And we saw that with Christian McCaffrey not too long ago. We saw the exact same thing. So I do think it's holding him back. But outside of that point, I think it's because he's white, but I also think it's because this is his first elite season. This feels like an outlier season more than anything else. He hasn't had a season similar to this in his entire career yet.
And I want to allude to that a little bit too, because we saw it in 2019. I mean, this is elite to me personally. 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. We saw Stephon Diggs burst onto the scene last season with 1,500 yards, and we immediately launched him into the top 3 category. It was Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, in that order. So the fact that he's just bursting onto the scene and people are so hesitant to throw him into the top 3, top 4, top 5 conversation, it's tough for me, especially with the fact that we gave Stephon this immediate recognition when in a similar spot as Cooper Kupp, even though he did have 1,110 touchdowns. What had he done previous to that with 1,000-yard seasons, just breaking 1,000 in 2018, had 1,100 in 2019, and then got traded and was amazing. 1,500 yards for sure.
And 31%, 31.7, let me say that again. 31.7% of Cooper Kupp's routes are on the outside. So he plays out wide 31.7% of the time. He's in the slot 66%. So the majority of his work is in the slot, but he does play out wide. It's not like he doesn't at all. He does play out wide.
One other name I'll bring up too that we haven't said yet is CeeDee Lamb. I think if we're starting a franchise right now, I would also be taking CeeDee Lamb, but
I don't think so. I'll go Kupp.
I would definitely take CeeDee. I think he's a special player.
Definitely.
So I have him. I would take CeeDee. He's 20. Was he 22?
Are you taking CeeDee over Godwin?
No. Close.
Are you taking CeeDee over Diggs?
Yes.
Starting a franchise? AJ? Yeah, I'm asking yes. Are you taking CeeDee over AJ?
But Joe, I want to get your take on that. Do you think that it is because Cooper Kupp is white?
It plays into it for sure. Like Drew said, he did have a good season in 2019. I just don't think anyone expects him to repeat this, which is fair. I mean, it's a historical season. It's going to be really hard to repeat this. Did I lose you guys? No, good. But I think it definitely plays into it. And you were fair talking about how CMC was the same way, where when CMC burst onto the scene, people were still kind of hesitant because most of the time we see Hispanic or Black players, they're the ones who are the top elite players at the skilled positions. So when CMC does it or Cooper Kupp does it, we want to see it for a couple more years. That's just kind of our confirmation bias. I think more than anything, like I want to see it before I believe it. Maybe confirmation bias isn't the right term there, but regardless, I think it's just going to be hard for Cooper Kupp to replicate the season. I think a lot of other people think that too. I think that's the number one thing, but being white probably plays into it as well.
Yeah, and also Cooper Kupp has 823 yards after the catch. So even if you want to knock Kupp's ability in the slot, even if you want to knock Kupp playing in the slot, with the ball in his hands, he's one of the more dangerous players in the entire NFL. He breaks tackles. He's elusive. He's shifty. And he racks up a lot of yak. I mean, 823 yards off of yak alone is pretty damn elite.
Impressive.
Oh, without a doubt.